Okay, so last week basically we discussed few things. So as usual, I will recap those within 5 minutes, and also the thing which I promised in the last lecture. I will try to answer some of them, and then we will move ahead with some of the basic concepts of waves and how it should be. It should help us to quantize the system and give some more explanation of the black body radiation, which we discussed in the last session. Okay. So obviously the few things which I wanted to cover today in today's session. I don't know. I mean, at least some basics of these four topics are going to be covered. Uh, but I just wanted to remind that these are some of the prerequisite, and probably I will try my best to at least, when I introduce some concept, I will try to handle some of the things from these topics as well. Okay. So we define quanta with a very naive example where, we discussed that how quantization basically, limit ourselves about the number of distributions and what basically one means by quanta in general life. Okay, so this is one of the example which I discussed, and people were, I think, very comfortable with this example. So then I discussed that at the classical level, people try to discuss a lot of things, which is something like black body radiation, wave particle duality, photoelectric effect, etc. And that was not happened. There was some discrepancy between the experimental data and the formulation from the classical physics. Okay, so that's why we need to move for some kind of new physics, which is called quantum physics. And in this session, we're going to cover those parts one by one. So I started with black body radiation, and I didn't finish the whole part. So today I'll try to, give more viewpoint over the black body radiation. So let me move ahead, and this was just history where we discussed about the development of quantum mechanics. So I'm skipping this as well. And then the definition of black body we learned. So this was the main crux, that the distribution of energy in the spectrum of a black body is given like this. But we saw after some observation of this plot, we saw that classical physics basically fails to explain this black body spectrum. Okay, and we saw that some of the things happened here, like this Rayleigh-Jean's law only able to explain some of the phenomena. I mean, some of the curve point like here, but the full spectrum is not going to be covered by this classical explanation. And then we learned about this Wien's law, Wien's formulation and the Rayleigh-Jean's law. And we saw that and that was very important, which I mentioned in the last session, that when you talk about wavelength, you see that Wien's formula basically able to explain this part of the spectrum in terms of the wavelength. However, Rayleigh-Jean's law only covered by this part. But when you turn it into frequency, obviously the curve is going to be changed, because we know that wavelength and frequency are inversely proportional to each other. So then there was a question by Jumi probably, that this is an exponentially decreasing function, then why we are seeing something like this curve here. So I thought that I should show this function to you, so that you could be comfortable with the explanation. So let me go for the something which I promised last time, that we can use some some tools to draw this kind of function. So I used here Mathematica. Can anybody confirm that you can see my Mathematica file?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's good. So you see that this function, the function which we defined as Wien's formula. So let me just move probably here. So you see here that this formula contains something like, if you write in terms of frequency, it is frequency to the power cube times the exponential minus h nu divided by this kb times t. Okay. So if I take this function, for example, suppose these constants are known, or and this is just like 1, then you can plot this something like this one. So x cubed times exponential minus x, and suppose that all the constants with some value. So you can see here, when you plot this, you will find something like this function. Okay. So that's why you see here that Wien's only, and this is the experimental points. So Wien's only able to cover by this function, this part of the curve, which you can see that in this region, you can get that. Okay. However, since this is a frequency, when you wanted to plot this for wavelength, obviously these numbers are going to be, inversely proportional to that. So it means if you have a 10, then it could be like around 0.1 or so. Similarly, this is going to be 1/8. So you see here, in terms of lambda now, it is going to be like this part of curve. So I just plotted it up to 1.1, but we can just decrease this value and we can plot up to 0.1, so that in terms of that, this is curve, the black-body spectrum in the region where we try to formulate the simulation. Okay. So, and similarly, if we talk about the Rayleigh-Jean's law, okay. So in Rayleigh-Jean's law, you see that this is this function is basically proportional to the square of the frequency. But if we try to have this in terms of wavelength, then let me go to the exact formula so that we can see here in a bigger picture. So this was the slide which I discussed last time. So you see here, in terms of lambda, it is proportional to, inversely proportional to the 4th power of lambda. Okay. So once you draw this function, so something like 1/x⁴, you see that this is the curve which is going to cover your black-body spectrum in this region. And that is what was shown here in this diagram. Okay, so in terms of lambda, you can just keep that thing, and then you will see that here we able to explain the black-body spectrum. So these are the tools which is going to be very useful once you do such kind of calculation. Maybe you can use, I used Mathematica, for example, but you can always write a Python code or C++ or whatever you know. And maybe with that tool, if you generate a data file, from data file you can also use various tools which are available freely, like GNU plot, etc., to plot such kind of curves. And you can realize basically these formulas and correlate it what people generally explain. Okay, so probably I answered Jumi's question. Can you confirm it, Jumi, that you understand this? Your voice is breaking. Maybe you can put your comments in chat. Okay, so I hope it's clear to everyone. And even if there is a question, I mean, you can always speak to me. Yeah, so that's good. So this was one of the things which I wanted to explain to you with respect to how, because nowadays, if you learn physics and especially quantum mechanics involves a lot of mathematics. So you need to find these tools very helpful once you wanted to have a feeling of some kind of physics which is basically going on there. Okay, so then after there was a question from Jumi itself probably, that what about black hole and black body radiation? So as I roughly answered that question, because I was not an expert of black hole physics, but I told you that in the dynamical reason, when we talk about the dynamics of the black hole, then that could be simulated with this black body radiation phenomena. Okay, so and one paper you can go through. This is a very short paper which was published in Chinese Physics B. These people actually work on the relation between a black hole and a general black body system. And the conclusion was the same, which I mentioned in the last session. So if I read the statement here, which was made by these people, obviously this is not very important for you for the timing, but just for the understanding point of view, I wanted to mention you that you might make some habit to read some papers by just Googling things. Okay, so the conclusion was the same, which I mentioned. The conclusion was that black hole should be inherently dynamical. Okay, so at least when it is taken as a black body system. So once you take this as a dynamics of the black hole, then it could be correlated with the black body. According to this paper, they have come with this picture. But if you see when it is a stationary, what is mentioned, that a stationary global black hole cannot be smoothly regarded as a general black body system. Okay, so I mentioned this in terms of the rotational black body, but here, I mean, in general, one can say that the inherently dynamical property should be there so that a black body can be conceived as a black hole system. Okay, so so with this note, now I wanted to basically go through some kind of basic notion of the wave nature and how wave should be actually described. Okay, so what is a wave? Can somebody answer me that question? I mean, what is the definition of wave? How a wave can be defined? Anyone?
Kind of energy.
Energy.
Sir, wave is a disturbance.
Okay. And anything else? So let's come to the very precise definition of a wave. Okay, which you might have learned in wave and oscillation, even in your class 11th class. So when you talk about material particle, obviously you talk about their masses, their position, etc. Different things of properties are there through which you measure that, okay, this is a particle. Okay, so similarly, you have to characterize wave by having some properties. Okay, so these properties should be something like amplitude, angular frequency, wave vector, and phase. Okay, so these are four integral part of wave. If you wanted to characterize in some kind of terminologies. Okay, and mathematically, when you write simply like y is a function of, let's suppose this is a one-dimensional wave. Okay, so you can say that wave is a function of probably I need to change this. Wave is a function of distance or x Okay, so I see in chat, Rupa wrote that wave is a disturbance which carries energy from one particle to another. However, this is not very precise because, you know, when we talk in terms of quantum mechanics, we have to distinguish between the characteristics of a particle or matter and a wave. Okay, but it's obviously this is one of the definition which one can talk about. That's fine. So what we wanted to have here, some sort of background knowledge of characteristics of a wave. So as in mathematical term, I wrote here that yxt, where y is the function of the displacement and the time, so is given by some factor a times, if we talk about sinusoidal wave, then sine function with omega t plus minus k times x plus minus phi, where that these terms are defined something like which I explained here. So a is the amplitude, omega is the angular frequency, k is wave vector, and phi is the phase. Okay, and this could take any sign plus or minus, and depending on that sign, wave can move from left to right or right to left according to your convention, which you generally mention about. Okay, so with this, obviously I'm not going into very basics of all the wave characteristics and all those things, but we're going to need this for whole quantum mechanics course, that you must know different properties where basically these waves are superposed to each other. So when we take superposition of waves, we can take, for example, these kind of 4 cases. Okay, let's suppose we have 2 wave function, okay, y1 and y2. So in case 1, one can take your amplitude to be different, okay, and try to superpose this wave and try to see what is going to happen. Okay, similarly, one can take same amplitude, but there should be a phase difference, something, let's suppose, I mean, y2 is defined with some finite phase phi, but here phi is 0. Okay, third combination one can take, that your amplitudes are same, but you can take the angular frequency and wave vector to be different. So you can also take like wave your angular frequency to be same, and then you can take the different wave vector. Also, the fourth case could be something like where the wave is coming from left to right and one is coming from, let's say, right to left, by just changing the sign here. So this is minus and this is plus. Okay, so these kind of waves, superposed waves, are going to give you some kind of physics which we're going to use for this whole quantum mechanics course. Okay, so that's why I just wanted to introduce this. So let's go one by one. Suppose that this is case 1, this is case 2, this is case 3, and this is case 4. Okay, and try to see that what is going to happen if we superpose these waves. Okay, so the very first case is that you can see that you have taken a different amplitude. Okay, so with this different amplitude, you can see this this is going, let's suppose, the between 1 to minus 1 to 1, but once you take a very high amplitude, it goes from -4 to 4 or something like that, maybe more than that. Okay, and when we superpose, basically your wave is having the same structure, but only the amplitude is basically increased. So you can simulate this also by using your Mathematica function, Mathematica tool. So I'm going to give you some idea that how one can do that. So in general, when you use this tool or any function, first of all, you have to define a function like this. Okay, and let's suppose this function is defined with some values which is given here. Then you have to use a plot function with the manipulate function. And then, you have to put the ranges where you wanted to have, and accordingly you can, plot this thing. And this W can, shift from whatever range you have given. And accordingly, you can see that how your function is basically behaving if we change this parameters. Okay. So to do this, first of all, you should know that how a function can be written. So you can write the same thing which I have written in a mathematical term, but you see here, you have to write if function has some input variable, then you use it x underscore comma t underscore. If you have a more function, obviously you can add more arguments, and then a is the amplitude, and then you have a sine wave, and let's say this is omega times t minus kx. And then you should substitute some value, something like, let's suppose I roughly put a equal to 3, w equal to 2, k equal to 1.5, and then try to plot this function between where x is basically moving from 1 to 10 and t is basically moving in the interval of 0.1 from 0 to 5. Okay, so I have taken this function, and if you see, if you change this time, then accordingly the wave is basically moving from one place to another. Okay, so this is a time dependent function. You can understand this very clearly. Okay, so this animation you can do in your Mathematica file by using this function, and you can visualize what is basically happening when we talk about such kind of things. So this is all about wave. Now we talk about case 1, where we have to basically superpose two different waves with a different amplitude. So let's suppose you defined a function y1 with a, like similarly what we defined above, and took all the values like the same. Okay, but your y2 have the different amplitude. That means your a is going to change, and I put a is something like 5, which you can see here. So here a equal to 1, but here we have a equal to 5. And then after, I will take all the values, maybe different or same, whatever you want. So I was testing, so I took just like, 5, but now we can take the same value as here. And then if you plot this, you will see that there is only increase in the amplitude, as you can see from this y-axis. Okay, so this is going from -1 to 1, but this is going from -5 to +5. Okay, and since obviously this is time dependent, so you can always see that it is moving also, going forward, backward, etc. Okay, by having some distribution. Now when you superimpose this thing, so once you superimpose, then what you have to do, basically you have to add these two functions. So once you add these two functions, you're going to get something like this. So now you see that the range is basically going something like from -10 to 10. Okay, because you now superimposed, and then the amplitude is basically summing up. So here we have the amplitude, basically this function same is, that's why you see here that this is going to have the same value. So it is going to add up, and then you see the higher amplitude. Okay. Similarly, if you go for case 2, so in case 2, you see here what we did. We just wanted to change the phase. Okay. So once you change the phase, you're going to see a little bit of changes of the sine function, because sine function, if you add some value, then obviously the value is going to change, because sine theta plus pi, etc. You can move accordingly. So the same thing if I wanted to simulate here. So you see here, let's suppose I wrote this as a y3, and the functions are like same, and then we take the all values same, but now we added something like, let's suppose plus 200 or so. Okay, so that this phi is going to take care of that. So now when you superimpose this, you're going to see something like this, which is obviously a little bit shift comparing to what we have here and here. Okay, so you can see the shift itself, like it is crossing like around 2.1 or something, but it is crossing around this. And when we superimpose, it is near to 2. So this phi is basically just a phase change happened, after taking care of this thing. And then as a function of time, you can always see how it moves. Now you see, so this is going to give you a very important phenomena, which we call interference. And we're going to use this when we going to describe the wave particle duality. Okay, so why why we see interference, why we see diffraction, this should be very clear to you in terms of a very simple mathematical formulas which I'm explaining, just like a basics. Okay, and you have to digest this first, then only we go for that wave particle duality explanation. Then you're going to understand this and digest the whole concept accordingly. Now let's suppose you have a third case where you change this omega and k1 comparing to this like omega 2 and k2. So by changing this, you can see I put some value of omega 1 k1, and this gives me a function like this. But when we change the frequency and this wave vector, it has some more frequent, because I changed the frequency to be higher. And when you have superimpose these two things, you're going to get something called wave packets or wave groups. And there we're going to define something called group velocity, which is distinct from the wave velocity. Okay, so that is why I'm just introducing this concept, that when I talk about wave groups or wave packets, we are talking about group velocity, and you need to actually have these relationships very nicely to be put together in a mathematical form, and those can be then explore more and more with a numerical example and all those things. Okay, so that's why I'm giving you this very basic picture of nature of waves and how these mathematics are going to be important for our understanding of quantum mechanics. Okay, now the fourth thing, which basically I wanted to use for now, is the concept of a stationary wave or standing waves. Okay, so what that means basically, it means that as I said, that one wave is coming from, let's suppose, left to right, and one is coming from right to left. So you see only the change of sign, everything is same, but only the change of sign here. So let me show this thing by having this also. So you can just have the function. Okay, like let's suppose I say y7. Okay, because I used 1 2 3 4 like numbering. So if you have something like here minus, but all the values are same, you see that function is moving when time is going, it is moving like this one. Okay, like this. Okay, but when you write as a plus sign, you will see that function is basically going in a different direction. Okay, so when you superimpose this, then you're going to get something like this. Okay, so if I simulate this here, what we gonna do? So this is very, very interesting property of waves, which basically give you something called a stationary or a standing waves, and I'm going to derive that also, and we will talk about that why this is called a stationary or a standing wave. So let's see, if I superimpose this, you will see, if I just match the x and y axis, what do you see here? So basically, this is making some kind of very beautiful picture, which we call node and antinode. Okay, and then this will describe the property of wave in a very, very nicer way in terms of the quantization, and we can generalize these things in the three-dimensional box as well. Okay, so these are some interesting things which I just recap from your probably class 11th stage. And now I will explain a little bit more about a stationary wave or standing wave. And when time comes, then we will talk about the cases which we discussed here, like this third case and also the second case where we talk about the interference and we talk about the wave groups, wave packets, etc., and group velocity. This has a very, very nice consequences to explain the quantum mechanics part of things which we wanted to discuss here. Okay, so till now, are there any question? Then I can take the question, and then maybe I will move more on the the explanation of this stationary or standing wave. Anyone? Are you happy with that? Okay, good. So let's discuss more on a stationary or standing wave, why we are saying this, and this is going to explain very nice phenomena of black body radiation, which we're going to explain. Okay, so this fourth case was there where we can mathematically, because we had just seen this by a simulation, that how basically this wave structure comes about, and when you add this up, that means superpose both kind of waves, then how the structure basically comes in terms of node and antinode. So mathematically, you can always write this like y1 plus y2. Okay, so you are just adding these two waves, and since A is same, so for the timing we consider that amplitudes are same. So this is going to be common out, and then you have to use a simple trigonometric function where you have to use sine A plus sine B. Okay, so by using that formula, you are going to get a factor of 2, and sine, obviously A should be there. So 2 times A times sine omega t times cos times kx. Okay, so and omega is basically the frequency which I already described, which you can write in terms of 2 pi nu as well, and k is just inverse of the wavelength, which you can write 2 pi over lambda. Okay, so what we note here, so we note that the particles distributed along the x-axis according to this equation. Okay, so because you see this x-axis is basically dependent on cosine function. However, your temporal position, temporal things is defined or explained by the sine function only. So that's why we have to understand this, what we mean by this equation. Okay, so the explanation is the following. Okay, so what we note here, that the particle distributed along the x-axis execute vibrations perpendicular to the x-axis, and the amplitude with which they execute these vibrations are different at different positions along the x-axis. However, the time period of the vibrations of all the particles is same. Okay, so because you see this omega can be written in terms of time period as well, because the frequency and time period are going to be correlated with each other. However, if we take the second step and we try to combine something like this, if I say that this is my amplitude, okay, so what we did here, we make this function with amplitude 2a times cos kx multiplied with the sine omega t, then this does not represent a traveling wave. Okay, since the argument of sine function is independent of the space variable x. Now you see that this is only dependent on time. Once we say that this is my amplitude. Okay, so since it is not moving in the space variable x, we say that this is something called stationary. Okay, so that's what I wrote the whole thing here. What we can say, that we thus see that although we started with two waves propagating in opposite directions. We have ended up with something that does not propagate in space at all. Okay, that means the wave that does not travel or propagate is called a stationary or a standing wave. And since it does not propagate, it transports no energy along with it. So that's the basic definition of a stationary or standing wave, which you might have learned in your basic wave and oscillation chapter. So this definition we're going to use for something to explain the black body radiation. So, but before that, if there is any question, I would happy to take that. Usually you can just unmute and you can interrupt me if you have a question. Okay, so let's try to understand this in terms of more mathematics, and then we will move ahead accordingly. Okay, I have to also take care of time because I generally take a lot of time of yours. So by having the superposition, we can obviously get the maxima and minima, because you know how we generalize these things. So the maxima is basically occurs when cos kx is equal to plus minus 1, and k is basically nothing but the wave vector. So you can write 2 pi over lambda, and from trigonometry itself that this satisfy the condition where 2 pi, or if it is theta, let's say, then theta should be equal to m times pi, where m is going from 0, 1, 2, 3 like this. Okay. Similarly, minimum can occur when your cosine function is basically 0. So that means your 2 pi over lambda x should be equal to some odd multiple of pi by 2. Okay, where again m is going from 0, 1, 2. So this maximum displacement, this will give the maxima is basically giving you the maximum displacement. This could be at x equal to 0 lambda over 2 lambda to m lambda over 2, which you can calculate from here very easily. So x is equal to m pi times lambda divided by 2 pi. So pi cancels, then you're going to get m lambda over 2. And once you put the value of m, then you're going to get the maximum position or maximum displacement at x equal to 0, lambda over 2, lambda, etc. Similarly, you can calculate your minimum displacement from this formula and substitute the values of m. You're going to get this should be lambda over 4, because there is a factor of 2 here. So obviously this 2 is going to multiply. So this will make it 4, a factor of 4 here. Okay, and pi will cancel, and then when you substitute values of m, you're going to get something like this. And this will give you a very beautiful picture, which we already saw, that once you have this, you can make something like we call, a node, an antinode, etc. So where we have the maximum amplitude, we call it as a antinode, where this is going to be, the amplitude is going to be 0, which is the minima which we discussed. This is going to call as a node. And you can see the distance between antinode and node is given by lambda over 4. However, the distance between the node and node, or antinode and antinode, is going to be lambda over 2, which we just explained through the mathematics above in the slide. Okay, so this is the basic thing which I wanted to explain, because now we're going to explain this black body spectrum in terms of these stationary waves. Okay, and why this is happening? Because in the black body you had seen that from some point radiation is basically coming in, and then in the black body itself it is reflecting. So it is reflecting, and it conserve all the energy density within that black body, whatever, I mean, kind of radiation. Okay, so by having this, we can now, by having this, some background from your wave and oscillation thing, we can explain the radiation, because it is as I said just now, that what is happening in a black body, that it is just like a reflecting kind of perfect reflectors, right? So radiation must consist of a standing electromagnetic wave, okay, because it is just like, one wave is coming and then it is reflect back. So it is just a function where omega t minus kx, and then when it reflect back, it is just like omega t plus kx. So it is just kind of things like that, and that's why I introduced those concepts, which is going to be very helpful to understand this part of blackbody radiation. So with that knowledge, we can say that in order to occur a node at each wall, the path length from wall to wall in any direction must be integral number n of half wavelength. Okay. So let's suppose now this in the three-dimensional structure. So you have a cube of length L. So this condition means that the standing waves in the XYZ directions respectively have the possible wavelength such that we can write nx equal to 2lx over lambda equal to 1 to 3. Here you can see that the notations are now different because we wanted to use something, the introduction part is just like from wave and oscillation, but we wanted to carry out these notations in whole through the quantum mechanics course. So that's why we have to be consistent like this. So so these are some number of half wavelength in the x direction. Similarly, this is in y and this is in z direction. Okay. So with this, as we mentioned that in a stationary or a standing wave, if it is in any arbitrary direction, it must be true that the standing wave in a cubic cavity should impose this relationship. That means the total n square should equal to nx square plus ny square plus nz square. And in general, we can write this as a 2L divided by lambda to the whole square. And you can say that the same thing, that nx and y, nz should go from 0, 1, 2, etc. Okay. Now we have to use some kind of a statistical, things which we have, learned in our thermodynamical and statistical physics. So, and also I have introduced something in the previous session on Saturday, that how one could take the interval, infinitesimal interval, and try to calculate the number density, etc. So we're going to use that formula here. So let's suppose we have a total number of wavelengths between lambda to lambda plus d lambda, as this is the same as the number of points in n space whose distance from the origin lie between n and n plus dn. Okay, so this will basically create a kind of a spherical shell of radius n, and the thickness is going to give you by dn equal to 4 pi n square dn, because it is a sphere. Okay, so obviously it will take us complete solid angle, and that is why we have to have a multiplicative factor of 4 pi. Okay, so it is just like a complete angle there. Another thing is that for non-negative values of n, that means when you have n is positive, we have a number of independent standing waves in this cavity, and that is given by n as a function of n times dn equal to, these factors are coming from all the permutations and combinations. So you have a 2 times 1 over 8, because it is just like a cavity with a three-dimensional object. So these factors are there. And then you have a 4 pi n square dn, which can be reduced as pi n square dn. And once you use the formula like here, so n is basically 2L over lambda, so which can be written in terms of frequency and speed of light. So lambda, we know lambda is given as c over nu, where nu is the frequency. So you can write this as a 2L nu by c, and then you can calculate this dn by just differentiating it. So since it's a function of frequency, you can say that dn is equal to 2L over c d nu. Okay, so this is just like an infinitesimal quantity. Then what you can write by using these values, you just substitute this into this formula. Okay, so we have pi n square dn. So if I substitute the value of dn and value of n, which we derived here, so we can find that n dn is equal to pi 2L nu by c whole square times 2L over c d nu. And when you combine this you're going to get 8 pi LQ divided by CQ nu square d nu. Okay. And then you can calculate density of standing waves in the cavity, which should be given as some function. Let's say that density is z nu d nu. So this should be equal to 1 over LQ since it is cubic. So times NdN, which is we calculated here. So we can just substitute this value, and this LQ is going to be cancelled out, and then you're going to get 8 pi nu square d nu divided by CQ. Okay, so this will give you a density of standing waves in cavity. Here, number of modes of oscillation per unit volume is basically going from nu to nu plus d nu. So we started with lambda to lambda plus d nu within a number density where we have n going from n plus dn, and we derived the density of the standing wave according to this step-by-step formulas. All right. So by having this, in 1900, Max basically put forward this quantum theory of radiation, which I discussed in the last lecture as well. He assumed that the atoms in the walls of a black body, so here actually this short notation BB means black body, okay, behave like a simple harmonic oscillator, okay, and each has a characteristic frequency of oscillation. So he made the following two radical assumptions about the atomic oscillator. One, that it should be quantized, the energy should be quantized. That means a simple harmonic oscillator cannot have any arbitrary value of energy. Okay, as I had given one example, that if you don't have a unit for the distribution of 2 liters of milk among 2 persons, then there are infinite ways through which you can distribute that milk among these 2 persons, right? The example which I started with in the previous session. So, but with that classical notions, we know that Wines and Rayleigh-Jeans basically failed to explain the black body radiation. So Planck, what he did, he tries to quantize it and say that this SHO or simple harmonic oscillator cannot have arbitrary values of energy, but it should be in some kind of unit. Okay, so he just quantized it and say that, okay, that unit could be something like this, where this proportionality constant is h, called as a Planck's constant. So E is equal to n times h times the frequency nu, where n could be any value between like 0, 1, 2, 3, and that is called the quantum number. So this is the very first quantization which we're going to be use to explain things, and also when you go more and more in the quantum mechanics course for the definition of atomic model, etc., then we will introduce more and more quantum number. And one of the things which I discussed when I discussed the history of quantum mechanics, I also discussed that their angular momentum was also quantized. Okay, so we will talk about those later on. But this is the development of quantum mechanics, and you can understand that how from classical to quantum we basically move towards. Okay, so this is the first assumption by Max Planck. The second assumption was that the emission or absorption of energy occurs only when the oscillator jumps from one energy state to another. So it is not like like a continuous kind of manner. It is just like oscillation from one step to another step. Okay, so what that means? That means that if the oscillator jumps down from a high energy state of quantum number, let's say n2, to a lower energy state of quantum number n1, then the energy emitted is given by E2 minus E1 equal to N2 minus N1 times h nu. Okay, so this is what some kind of, you can say, the breakthrough where quantization basically reduces the number of number of options which there in the classical mechanics lies, and was not able to explain the black body radiation. Okay, so with this, I will stop here, basically, by just describing some of kind of things like here. So on the basis of then quantum theory, Planck obtained the formula for an average energy of an oscillator, something like this. So E equal to h nu divided by EH nu divided by KT minus 1. And once you take again the same thing which we just discussed, that number of oscillation or degree of freedom per unit volume between the range nu to nu plus T nu is given by this formula, which we already derived. And then the energy density of radiation per unit interval for black body radiation is described by the formula here, which is, in terms of, now you can see that there is a difference between the classical formula, that the classical formula doesn't contain this Planck's constant h, and that was the big achievement that was able to explain the black body spectrum. Okay, so this is just a history that how quantum mechanics basically evolved and will able to explain the phenomena of black body radiation. And this is very important equation which needs to be explained in more detail, that how this calculation has been done. But today, I mean, I think I'm not going for that because already it is over the time. And in the next lecture, probably I will derive these equations one by one by having more and more mathematics. And if you don't understand, obviously you can always ask these questions. But before that, before we end the session, any question or any doubt or something which I forgot to mention? Any question, please? Or it's going very like a, okay, very good. So with this note, let me end today's session. And in the next session, I will be more and more mathematical, and will try to give you the whole, derivations, that how these things basically comes through. But if you see this equation, is going to be very, nicer to explain the, the black body radiation, where I saw, we see the plots here. Okay, so in one of the plot I had probably shown, yeah. So in this plot, you can see that this Planck radiation formula is basically fitting with this function. And again, I would request that if you use Mathematica, you can use the function which I showed here, or in the next lecture, in the next session, obviously, I will show you that how basically all these three formulas can come together, and explain the curve which we just discussed here. Okay. So yeah, with this note, let me end the session today. And sorry. Since I see there is no question, so let me stop the recording.